Geoscience Processes Stemscopedia. Reflect. Look at the two images of the Grand Canyon and a landslide. What geoscience processes do they have in common? What is different about how these two structures formed? Understanding that the processes that formed and change our Earth requires an analysis that looks at two scales. One scale for the time frame in which the processes occur, and a second scale to determine the size of the area involved. For example, the immense size of the Grand Canyon marks it one of the biggest canyons in the world. It is 277 miles long, 18 miles wide, and over a mile deep. The landslide pictured, however, only covers 50 feet. The Grand Canyon was carved out through the very slow process of weathering and erosion by the Colorado River. The river cut through the surrounding plateau for billions of years. The landslide happened very quickly. Both the Grand Canyon and the landslide reflect the ability of geoscience processes to change the surface of Earth. These changes can be a big or small scale and over a long or short period of time. What do you think? Slow changes to Earth. What do you think causes slow changes to Earth? Wind, water, and ice can cause changes to the Earth's surface slowly over time. Nature's change agents have scored Earth's surface for billions of years, resulting in a diversity of landscapes. Water from the Colorado River gouged out the majestic 1 mile deep Grand Canyon. Water had also deposited the silt from the ancient seas on the broad Texas plains. Glacial ice scraped away sides of the mountains in the northern United States, leaving behind the Great Lakes. The rubble from the deposited hundreds of miles downslope created the rocky northeastern states. For millennia, relentless winds have chipped away at sandstone formations, leaving behind the usual rock formations typical of the Southwest. All regions of the Earth have been slowly altered, each with their own unique story of change. And these are just images about the topics that were just covered up here. Look out. From previous studies, you learned that different rock types form the layers of sediment compacting and cementing sedimentary rocks, from melting, cooling, and crystallization of magma, igneous rocks, and from heat and pressure that change rocks, metamorphic rocks. All rocks, as well as the surface of which they are part, change over time. Rock can transform into another type of rock through crystallization, metamorphism, or erosion and sedimentation. Rock layers can be moved, eroded, lifted up, tilted, or broken. If rock layers look different than they did when they formed, it is because these layers have been changed by geoscience processes. Consider the tilted rocks on the right, located in Zion National Park in Utah. Since geologists know that these rock layers were deposited horizontally during the Jurassic period about 200 million years ago, then some geologic processes cause these tilt in the rock layers. What caused these rock layers to tilt? The answer is plate tectonics. Scientists use the knowledge of geologic processes, observations of rock layers, and fossils to determine how an area has changed over time. Other important information include the plate tectonic movement, environment, climate, and plant and animal life. The movement of these plates causes continents to shift and mountains to form. It also forms earthquakes, volcanoes, ocean trenches, and mid-ocean ridges, and rift valleys. The major plates on Earth are the African plate, Antarctic plate, Eurasian plate, Indian plate, Australian plate, North American plate, South American plate, and the Pacific plate. And that's where all these are labeled on here on this map. Reflect. Tectonic plate movement is slow, large-scale geoscience process. Can you find different Earth features associated with the different types of the plate boundaries? So there's 3 different types of plate boundaries. And this is just marking like where volcanoes are, where mountain ridges are. And do you see what types of boundaries are around when you see a volcano, where there's a mountain? Different plates cause different events to occur. Okay, Convection currents in the cause three types of slow movement over hundreds of millions of years. These plates meet. Divergent boundaries are where plates move apart at the mid-ocean ridges and magma rises, forming new ocean floor. This pushes oceanic plates east and west towards the continental plates. This also occurs when the continental plates move apart, forming a rift valley. Convergent boundaries are where oceanic and continental crusts collide, causing the oceanic crust to slide under, which is also known as subduct. This forms volcanoes, mountain ranges, earthquake zones, and deep ocean trenches. Where two continental crusts collide, the plates can fold into the mountains. Transform boundaries are where plates slide past each other horizontally. Tension can build up as they slide and suddenly release in an earthquake. This is an example of the slow, large-scale process, plate movement, and combined with fast, small-scale process, an earthquake. Okay, so these are the three types of boundaries. Transform boundaries was when we were working with the graham crackers and we were shifting them one up and one backwards. Okay, and then the convergent boundary was when we were shifting them all together. What do you think? Paleontology, the study of fossils and how they are formed, helps us determine how the Earth has changed with time. The oldest fossils date back to the Aquarian eon, 3.5 billion years ago. Fossils can range in size from small ones, micrometers in diameter, to gigantic ones, the size of dinosaurs. Observations made from the fossils can be used to describe the climate, environmental conditions, and plant and animal life at any given time in the Earth's history. Okay, you're going to be studying this in a lot more detail next year, but these are all the different time periods, and this is telling you how long ago it is. What kinds of fossils have been found in the region where you live? How have these fossils contributed to the history of Earth? Look out. When you think of fossils, you might think of dinosaurs, mastodons, or large ferns that lived long ago. However, fossils from microscopic organisms often tell us more about the climate of the Earth's past than do the larger specimens. Ice cores are another piece of evidence used to discover the Earth's history. Ice cores are typically removed from an ice sheet. Ice sheets are the most commonly found in the polar ice caps of Antarctica, Greenland, or high mountain glaciers. The ice forms from the buildup of an annual snowfall, and the lower layers of the core are older than the upper layers. Ice cores contain ice formed over hundreds of thousands of years. These core samples help reconstruct the climate record over the age range of the core. Each core contains an abundance of information in inclusions. Inclusions are imperfections in the ice. These include bubbles, pollen, dust, ash, microscopic organisms, and more. For example, air bubbles get trapped in the ice as it forms. These air bubbles are part of the atmosphere from that time. The gas in these air bubbles can tell us what the atmosphere was like hundreds of thousands of years ago, like carbon dioxide levels. Okay, so this sample taken from an ice core shows tiny gas inclusions. Scientists also use microscopic organisms and other types of matter, pollen, dust, or ash, in the layers of ice to determine what organic matter was present or if the forest fires or volcanic eruptions were occurring. They use the thickness of each ice layer to determine the temperatures on Earth over a given year, decade, or century in the Earth's history. What do you think? Have you ever seen a sculpture that has been outside for many years? If the sculpture is a person, the nose and mouth might be worn down. The face might have cracks in some places. The way the sculpture looks now is probably not how it looked when the artist made it. This is a famous sphinx in Egypt. The sculpture was made more than 4,000 years ago. Over thousands of years, some parts of the sphinx have worn away. Just like structures the humans build, Earth's landforms change over time. Mountains are an example. Some mountains are tall with steep slopes. They have sharp, jagged peaks. Over time, their slopes will become gentler. Their peaks will become more rounded and smooth, just like the face of the Sphinx. These changes happen when the rocks break down and move to new places. The forces that change the Sphinx are the same forces that have changed Earth's surface for billions of years: weathering, erosion, and deposition. Reflect. What causes weathering? One way landforms change over time is called weathering. Weathering happens when forces in nature break down rocks into smaller pieces. For example, tiny grains of sand on the beach used to be part of larger rocks or shells. Over time, pieces of the larger rocks or shells broke off and became smaller. Now they're just tiny grains. Weathering from ice helped create these natural arches in Utah. Over many years, parts of the rocks were worn away, leaving empty spaces. Different things cause weathering. Wind carries tiny particles of soil and rock called sediment. As wind blows against the mountain, the sediment grinds against it. This grinding action breaks off pieces of the mountain. Water can also cause weathering. Rivers carry sediment that grinds against rocks in the riverbed. Over time, large formations such as canyons can form. Ice can also cause weathering. Remember when water expands when it freezes? If water seeps into cracks in rocks and freezes, the ice pushes the cracks a little wider. After melting and refreezing many times, the ice will split the rock into pieces. This split rock at the state park in Connecticut resulted from repeated freezing and thawing. What do you think? The rocks at the edge of the waterfall tend to be rounded and smooth. Why do you think the rocks are this way? What caused the weathering? Where else might you see how weathering changes land? Look out. Changes can be slow or fast. Changes to land happen at different speeds. A volcano or an earthquake can change landforms in minutes. Wind, water, and ice are just as powerful, even though they cause changes more slowly. For example, earthquakes can cause very large and powerful waves called tsunamis. Tsunamis have speeds of 20 to 30 miles per hour and can be 10 to 100 feet tall. They can cause devastating damage to land, buildings, human life. In some cases, wind, water, and ice take much longer to change the Earth's surface. They may even take millions of years. Look at the tall, skinny towers of rock in the picture to the right. They form from an area of rock that is 30 to 40 million years old. The rock is still changing today. Scientists predict that in another few million years, the rock towers will appear very different. All right, these towering rock formations are called the hoodoos. Short, intense rainfalls are one agent of erosion that form these structures. Fast geoscience processes are often catastrophic events such as tsunamis, earthquakes, volcanic eruptions, landslides, windstorms, floods, and meteorite impacts. In contrast, slow geoscience processes are often so slow that they go undetected. Such processes include plate tectonic movement and the erosion of mountains, river valleys, and beaches. Weathering, erosion, and deposition. Weathering is not the only way the landforms change. When rocks break down into smaller pieces, those pieces often get moved. This movement of rock particles to a new place is called erosion. When those pieces are finally laid down, the deposition builds up to the surface. Weathering, erosion, and deposition work together to change the Earth's surface. So we have weathering breaks down stone into sand, erosion moves the sand windward, deposition lays down sand to form dunes.